Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Liz, and I'd like to welcome you to the Children's Book Show Digital Festival. It's really wonderful to be broadcasting into your schools and homes in the week of World Book Day to celebrate the joy of books and reading. So, what does the Children's Book Show do? Well, we choose some of the best authors, illustrators, and poets from all around the world to perform in theatres across the country, giving children the opportunity to experience the electricity of a live encounter with an artist. We run in-school workshops where children get to work creatively with authors and illustrators and poets in their classroom. And we give away thousands of books each year to children all across the country. So although this year has been different and we haven't been able to work in theatres or schools, we have created online projects that bring the joy of reading to children everywhere. And we've really missed our theatre performances. So it's especially exciting that we can be here with you today. Now, our very special guest this afternoon is the best-selling American poet, writer and educator, Kwame Alexander. Kwame is passionate about the power of poetry and literature to inspire, engage, and empower young people. He has written 35 books, including several award-winning novels in verse, such as The Crossover, Rebound, and Booked. And if you haven't read them yet, please do, as they are brilliant. As well as the powerful and moving picture book poem, The Undefeated, illustrated by Kadir Nelson, which Kwame will be performing today. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with this book after our Let's Celebrate Black Lives project in the autumn. During the performance, teachers can write questions for Kwame in the Ask a Question box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll try to get through as many as possible in the time we have. I can see there's lots there already, so that's really great. Please upvote the ones that you particularly like. Now, before I hand you over to Kwame, I'd just like to remind you that we are recording the event and that it will be available for you to watch again. And last but not least, I would like to say a really big thank you to Arts Council England for their funding and support, which has allowed us to make these events happen this week. We can't yet be with you in person, but we hope you'll love today's performance. After all, we have chosen the very best in the world for you. Now, please join me in giving a huge welcome to Kwame Alexander. Yay!
Woohoo! Woohoo! Thank you so much, Liz, and thank you, Kate, and thank you, Joe and Sean and the Children's Book Show. And thank you all for tuning in today. We got so many people here today. I'm shouting out people now. I want to shout out Branford Primary School. What's happening, everybody? Seven Kings Primary. Okay. We got Hungerford Primary School. Oh, we got a lot of primary schools here today. So cool. Burnley Road Academy. Oh, this is great. Good morning, Lee Valley Academy. Oh, it's so many people. Broadbent Fold. Wow. This is so exciting. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Where to begin? I guess at the beginning. So when I was 3 years old, my mother read to me books all the time, you all. She read poetry nonstop. My favorite poet was a poet named Dr. Seuss. You all ever heard of Dr. Seuss? He wrote a book called Green Eggs and Ham, right? The Cat in the Hat, right? My favorite book was a book called Fox in Socks. I should have it somewhere. It's somewhere around here. I'm in my flat right now in St. John's Wood in London. So my favorite book was called Fox in Socks. And I loved that book. I memorized it. I read it nonstop. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime, bath time. Fox, socks, Knox, box. Fox in socks, socks in box. Yeah. So one day, I was 3 years old and I was going to my school. I went to preschool in a place called New York City. And at the end of school, I built a house out of wooden blocks. And this kid in my class came over and he knocked the blocks over. Ooh, I was so mad. I was so mad that I used the only weapons I had. My words. My words were my weapons. And I went up to that boy and I said, those were my blocks that you flipped. Lest you want a quick payback, better fix my quick block stack. And the boy started crying. And when my mother came to school, the teacher said, Mrs. Alexander, that was my mom, we have a problem. Your son Kwame is arrogant. Ooh. Do you all know what arrogant means? Arrogant means you're like super, super confident and you think you are all that, like you are the best and nobody else is anywhere near you. So they said, Mrs. Alexander, your son is arrogant. He intimidates the other kids with his words. And you know what my mother said? She said, thank you. We teach him to use his words. How cool is that? That was the beginning of my love of words. That's where it all started, you all, age 3. And from then on, I just wrote a bunch of poetry. I would write poetry at 6 years old. In fact, when I was 11, I wrote a poem for Mother's Day for my mom. Would you like to hear it? I can't hear you. Boundless Primary School, you want to hear it? Oh, Liz wants to hear it. Okay. New Forest, y'all want to hear it? Okay. What about Kennett Valley? Chingford Church of England? Okay, I guess everybody wants to hear it. So this was the poem, Miss Cleveland, this was the poem I wrote for my mother on Mother's Day. It went like this. All right, everybody lean in. Dear Mommy, I hate Mother's Day because in my heart, every day is Mother's Day, and I love you, dear Mommy. My mom loved that poem. Now, that wasn't the best poem, but she loved it, and she cried tears of joy. And I just thought, wow, poetry is pretty powerful. So I kept writing poetry, and I wrote poetry, and then I went to high school, and then I went to college. And then, before you knew it, I had written like 10 books of poetry. And one day, I was in New York City again, and this woman came up to me and she said, Kwame, I love your poetry. I think you should write a book for elementary school students. You should write a book for primary school students. And I thought, that's interesting. Yes, because I love saying yes. Yes is my favorite word. And so she said, you should write a book about a boy who plays basketball. And I thought, that's pretty cool. I used to love playing basketball when I was a kid and my dad played, so I know a little bit about basketball. So I went and I wrote my book. And it was 50 pages long. And it was the best book I could ever write. And I sent it to this woman who said I should write the book, who happened to work at a publishing company, a book publishing company. I sent it to her and I said, here it is. Thank you for the suggestion. Now, will you please consider publishing it? And she sent me a note back. And the note said, Dear Kwame, your book is not that good. And so we aren't going to publish it. So then I went back and I rewrote the book. I edited. I know y'all edit your stuff. You know, you edit your work. That's important. So I edited my book and I rewrote it. And I sent it back to her. And this time she sent me a note and it said, Dear Kwame, your book is still not that good. And so we aren't going to publish it. And I thought, what is going on? So I edited it again. And now the book was 200 pages. And I sent it back to her. And this time she said, Kwame, please stop sending me your book. So now it's really sad. I was like, this is my favorite book. I put so much work into it. Now, what I didn't tell you is that was 3 years. It took me 3 years to get it right, but still she didn't like it. It was very sad. So I went back and I rewrote it again. And now the book was 238 pages. And it was about a boy who played basketball. And his name was Josh Bell. And he had a twin brother named Jordan Bell. And they were stars on the court and they were stars off the court. And you could tell them apart because one had long hair and the other had no hair. Like me. And one day, the brother who has no hair, Jordan, he bets his brother that if he makes the last shot in the game, he gets to cut off all his brother's hair. And his brother responds, if my hair were a tree, I'd climb it. I'd kneel down beneath and enshrine it. I'd treat it like gold and then mine it. Each day before school, I unwind it. And right before games, I entwine it. These locks on my head, I designed it. And one last thing, if you don't mind it, that bet you just made, I decline it. Ooh, yeah. You hear that, Sue Deary? Oh my gosh. The Stoke School. Oh yeah, you hear that, Paul? So that's what happened. So finally, I decided I was going to send the book out to other publishers. So I found 18 other publishers and I sent it to them. And they all sent me notes back. And they said, Dear Kwame, thank you so much for submitting your book to us to be published. Unfortunately, we're not going to publish it. You've written a book about basketball and girls don't read sports books. Can you believe that? They told me girls don't read sports books. And then they said, you've written a book about basketball and you use poetry to tell the story and boys don't read poems. Poetry and basketball will never sell, so none of us are going to publish your book. 5 years of work on this book had gone by and nobody wanted to publish it. So now it was really sad, everybody. So then I decided I was going to publish the book myself, right? Because you got to believe in yourself. And a week later, I get an email. And the email says, Dear Kwame, I read your book. I work for a company in Boston, Massachusetts that publishes books. We're called Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and we would love to publish it. So then I was really excited, and the book got published. And in 2015, a year after the book got published, I got a phone call at 7:16 a.m. in the morning on February the 2nd. I still remember the day. And the caller said that he was calling from the Newbery Committee. Now, I got to tell y'all, the Newbery Committee, the Newbery is the biggest award in America for children's books. The Newbery Medal is an award that says you wrote the best book in America. So I got a call and they said, we're calling from the Newbery Medal. And I said, what? I said, this is probably going to be a good call. And they said, we're calling to tell you that your novel, The Crossover, I was like, woo, what if they tell me I won? Would I be getting this call if I had given up after the first no, or the fourth, or the 10th, or the 18th? And he said, I'm calling to tell you that your novel, The Crossover, is the winner of the Newbery Medal for the most distinguished contribution to American literature for children. And I started screaming and dancing and like going crazy. And like my 6-year-old daughter came in my bedroom and said, Dad, why are you screaming and dancing? And I said, because I just won the Newbery Medal for The Crossover. And she said, yay. Now, can you please make me some eggs? Kids. That's my journey. That's how I got here today. And since then, I've written 15 more books. And it's all because I never gave up on myself. Here's my favorite quote. Though we may face defeat, we must never be defeated. We're going to be told no, but we can't allow other people's no's to define who we are. We have to say yes to ourselves. Right, Miss Cleveland? Right, Clifford Road? Right, Hungerford? Right, Miss Lindsay? Right, Miss Doyle? We got to say yes to ourselves, which is why I wrote this book. I should turn it up right. Oh, by the way, some of those pictures back there, put it in the chat if you know who they are. Let's see if you all know who they are. We're doing a little test. All right, The Undefeated. This book symbolizes everything I just told you about in that story. You got to believe in yourself. This is about the story of Black Americans. This is the story of America. It's tragedy and triumph, and we're about to read it. Here we go. No, Zainab, Michael Jordan is not in the picture, but you're kind of close. Here we go. Oh, I don't have to read the book. We have pictures. Joy, she's coming up. There you go. Boom. So Joy is behind the scenes, everybody, and she's going to turn the pages, and I'm going to read it. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Andrea Winchester. Muhammad Ali is one of the pictures. Here we go. No more chatting right now. Let's read. This is for the unforgettable, the swift and sweet ones who hurdled history and opened a world of possible. The ones who survived America by any means necessary, and the ones who didn't. This is for the undeniable, the ones who scored with chains on one hand and faith in the other. This is for the unflappable, the sophisticated ones who box adversity and tackle vision, who shine their light for the world to see and don't stop till the break of dawn. This is for the unafraid, the audacious ones who carried the red, white, and weary blues on the battlefield to save an imperfect union. The righteous marching ones who sang, "We shall not be moved because Black lives matter." This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unlimited, unstoppable ones, the dreamers and doers who swim across the big sea of our imagination and show us the majestic shores of the promised land. The Wilma Rudolphs, the Muhammad Alis, the Althea Gibsons, the Jesse Owenses, the Jordans and the LeBrons, the Serenas and the Cheryls, the Reese Whitleys and the undiscovered. This is for the unbelievable, the we real cool ones. This is for the unbending, the black as the night is beautiful ones. This is for the underdogs and the uncertain, the unspoken but no longer untitled. This is for the undefeated. This is for the undefeated. This is for you, Tom, and you, Zainab, and you, Globe, and you, Miss Pearson. This is for us. Thank you all so much for listening to that. And I hope you enjoyed that story of how Black people survived, thrived. I wrote it for my daughter to show her how we came from being kidnapped in Africa and brought to America 400 years later, having a Black president, Barack Obama. I wanted to show her that journey. I also wrote it for all of us to remind us that we must never be defeated. Even in the midst of challenge and chaos and tragedy, we can survive. We can thrive. We are still here. We got to believe in ourselves. So that's my story. So I think we're going to bring Liz back up. And no, not Liz. I think Kate's coming back.
No, Liz.
Oh, Liz is coming. Cool. We're going to take some questions. Or what are we doing, Liz?
Yeah, no, I've got some questions here that people have been writing in the chat box. But I'm just going to start off with, because The Undefeated is such a powerful, powerful book. And I just wanted to ask you a question that one of the children's book show team asked me to ask you, which is, was it difficult for you to decide which historical figures and events to use in the Undefeated?
It was very difficult. There are so many important people in Black history who have made it possible for me to be here, who have made significant contributions to our world. You all have been looking at these pictures, so I'll tell you, that's Dr. J. Dr. J was a famous basketball player before Michael Jordan. That woman is Nikki Giovanni. She was my professor in college. She's a famous poet. That's Muhammad Ali. You all got that? All right. That is Langston Hughes, famous poet from the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s. Up top, Dizzy Gillespie, famous jazz musician, trumpeter. Look at his cheeks. Like, his cheeks are huge. When you finish with this, Google him. His cheeks are huge because he's blowing the trumpet. This was a famous writer, an essayist and critic and activist named James Baldwin. And of course, that person up there, wait a minute. Oh, I can't tell you. You all ought to know who that is. Look at that. That's the world's best soccer player. Liz, don't tell him. Put it in the chat. The world's best soccer player ever. Ever.
It's quite hard to see from here, I have to say. A little, but you know.
Well, I'll tell you.
Let's let them guess.
He won 5 World Cups and he's from Brazil.
Oh,
boom.
I think somebody's got it in the chat there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they got it. They got it. Pele! Pele! Woo! Yes, they got it.
Yeah. So how did you go about choosing then? Did you just take some time and then, you know, or did you work with Kadir Nelson to, you know, decide how the book was going to work?
Kadir Nelson is an amazing illustrator who won the Caldecott Medal for this book. And he was shortlisted for the Kate Greenway Medal as well in the UK. And he chose all the illustrations. I had no say in it. So it was up to him who he was going to paint and illustrate in the book.
And did you work completely separately from him then? Did you present the words and then?
Yeah, I wrote the book and then we sent it to him and he did the illustrations. And at one point, I tried to give him some feedback on his illustrations, and he said, "Kwame, leave me alone." So illustrators just do their thing, and writers do their thing. And then the book comes together. But no, we didn't work together.
Yeah, I think that's one of those myths of you know, the normal world, that they think that authors and illustrators often sit down together, but actually often they're really in their own little space doing what they're good at.
One school asked, why did I repeat unspeakable 3 times? That is a great question, students. And I'm going to turn it back to you. Why do you think a writer would repeat something? What would be the purpose of repeating something over and over? Put it in the chat if y'all know it. I think y'all know it. Think about it. Just give it some thought. Why do we repeat? This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unspeakable. This is for the unspeakable. Zainab says to drive home a point. Boom. There you go. I love it. St. John Fisher said to emphasize it. Yes. Eagle Class said to make it a clear point. Oh, Mr. Jeffrey said, y'all got it. To emphasize, to make sure you all understand that these things are horrible. And we have to acknowledge that they happen. And we have to know that they make us feel a certain kind of sadness and sorrow. And we got to know our history so we won't repeat it. So we got to say it. We got to speak it. Boom. Love it.
So just one more question about the Undefeated. You've said that it was in part a tribute to Barack Obama. Yep. And do you know if he's read it?
I don't know if Barack Obama's read it. Wouldn't that be cool if he did? Woo! In fact, here's something really cool. All right, everybody, look at your copy of The Undefeated. Now, Show you a little trick that Kadir Nelson, a little funny thing he did, cool thing. See the number 44? Who knows what 44 stands for? Put it in the chat. I'm not telling you. Boom. Let's see who gets it first.
That's great. I love that. I know what it is, but I'm not going to say. So let's have another question. I actually really like that question from the Stoke Poges School. How did you feel when you wrote The Undefeated and when it was published?
I felt like I could do anything. Yep, everybody got it. Barack Obama was the 44th president of the U.S. Y'all are so smart here on this children's book show. Is the best thing ever. Oh my goodness, I love these students. How did I feel when I wrote The Undefeated? I felt like I could do anything. I felt like I was on top of the world. I felt like no matter what I'm faced with in this world, I can overcome the challenges. I think the things I felt when I was 3 years old, that I am arrogant. Now, hold on. Before you cringe up your face, here's what I mean. One of my favorite quotes is by this guy, Muhammad Ali, and it goes like this. I am the greatest. I am the greatest, not because I am better than anyone, but because no one is better than me. Think about that. We can be super confident in who we are, but it doesn't mean that we don't think other people can be that too, because they should be. How about we all just think we are the greatest and we act like that and we treat each other like that, like they are as well. Boom.
Brilliant. Food for thought there, guys. So I'm going to ask you a couple of some questions about writing, actually, that lots of people have asked. So, well, actually, Rolls Crescent Primary School asked, before becoming an author, did you consider any other career?
I thought I was going to be a doctor, a pediatrician, or a tennis star. Like, those are my two things. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad you became a writer.
Thank you.
Now, Adam from Seven Kings Primary says, how do you stay motivated to write a whole book?
Adam, I have a thing called a contract. It's like, I mean, think of it like this, Adam. How do you stay motivated to go to school each day? Because you have to. If you didn't go to school, you get in trouble, right? The same thing with me. It happens to be that I love going to school. I love writing books. So I have a job. My job is to wake up every morning and sit at my desk over there. You can't see it because it's behind the computer. And sit in that chair, my favorite chair, and drink some tea and write about 5 or 6 hours every day because it's my job. I just happen to love it. I love making words dance on the page. I love creating stories that are going to help you imagine what kind of world we're going to have. I love entertaining, I love inspiring, and I love empowering young readers. So that's how I stay motivated every day. But I also have contracts that say, Kwame, you better get this book done by a certain date or you won't get paid. Speaking of which, I am working on a new book. I saw that in the chat. I'm writing a couple new books. One book I'm writing right now is about a boy who's 12 in 1859, and he's a swimmer. It's called The Door of No Return.
When's that coming out, Kwame? Hopefully
next year.
Okay, great. We'll keep our eye out for that one then, definitely. Now, I love this question from Clifford Road Primary, and they say, if you could tell your younger writer self anything, what would it be?
If I could tell my younger writer self anything, it's the same thing I would tell my younger self. And it's the same thing I tell you all. This is what it is. Pay attention. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss. Dribble, fake, shoot, miss. Dribble, fake, shoot, swish. You got to keep shooting. I would tell myself, you gotta keep shooting. Don't worry about missing it. Don't worry about messing up. Just keep shooting. And eventually, you will make it. Boom.
Yeah. Resilience. As you could see from your sending out the crossover to so many publishers, it's resilience. Thank you for that. Now, I know what I wanted to ask you is why, here we go, Hungerford Primary. Oh, where was it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. The question was, why did you decide to write your novels in poetry rather than in prose?
Because I've been writing poetry and reading poetry since I was 3 years old. It's the way I learned how to write and read and speak and listen. It's the language I love. I've loved poetry forever. And because, check this out, you can say so much in so few words. And, you ready for this? This is the really exciting part. It's so much white space. Look at that. Look at all that white space on the page. I love that. Let's just get it said. You don't got to put a whole bunch of words. Just the right words in the right order. That's what I say.
Brilliant. Charlie from Bowness Primary would like to know who has been your biggest inspiration.
My biggest inspiration is my mom and my dad. Absolutely. They taught me everything I know about how to be a writer and how to be a man. Yeah, my parents.
Brilliant. Okay. How about, has there been any particular poet or writer that has inspired you?
Nikki Giovanni.
Yeah.
Langston Hughes. Two of my favorite poets ever. Ever.
Brilliant. Check them out, people.
Somebody asked, Oakdale Junior High asked, does my daughter write? She can write really well, but she's more of an actress. In fact, she's in a play called Seussical. She goes to school in London and she's in a play called Seussical, which they're doing on Zoom because the school's not in session right now.
Okay, cool. What was it like for you to move to London, Kwame? And why did you move to London?
Oh, I love London. I'm never going home. This is my favorite place. I live right across the street from Lord Cricket Ground. Like, I could see it. If they were playing matches, I could see it. I'm so far up, right? I love walking. I love walking in Regent's Park and Hyde Park and Primrose Hill. I love seeing the city. I love this walking city. I love the food when the restaurants were open. Now I just order delivery. I told you, Liz, I love Gales. I love the arts. I moved to London to find my muse. I felt like I had gotten kind of comfortable in my writing, and it was cool, but I wasn't enjoying it as much. I needed to challenge myself. I needed to up the stakes. And so I moved from Virginia, which is near Washington, D.C., all the way to London to sort of find my muse again. And I did. I've done some of my best writing here. The thing that made it possible for me to move was I became the innovator in residence at the American School in London, which is really a cool job. My job was to innovate. I can't tell y'all what that is, but I innovated. So I'm innovating at the American School in London. And this year, they have a new innovator, so I'm the writer in residence. So I teach some classes, some workshops. I interact with students and teachers.
Okay, brilliant. I'm glad that you came to London. It's great for us. Now, several people in the chat keep asking if you can rap. I don't know if that's
no. I
something
cannot
I should
rap.
ask you.
I cannot rap. Well, you just asked me, Liz.
Well, I know.
Liz, this is a really funny way to ask me, Liz. Well done. Well done.
You know, I'm just doing what the audience want. That's all. So the answer to that is no. This is a great question. Seven Kings Primary. How can we improve our writing?
I'll give you 3 things you can do to improve your writing. Read. Number 2, read. The way we become better writers is by reading other people and finding out what works and what doesn't. Third way to become a better writer, let's see. Read. You can't be a writer if you don't read. How's that? Also, write something every day. A word, a line, a sentence, a paragraph, a story, a poem. Just write something every day.
Yeah, good advice. Very good advice. Thank you for that question. Now, another question, which I think you're not going to like, because I get the feeling that writers don't like this, but several people have asked.
Oh, I know what it is.
Do you?
What's your favorite book of
that
yours?
You've written? Yeah.
I'm not. You know what? It's interesting that you asked that. Hold on 1 second. Stay right there.
Cool. That was asked by St Mary's in Woodbridge in Suffolk, by the way, as well as quite a few others, I think. I always want to know as well. So I think it's a good question to ask, but I think it's a hard one for writers to answer, everybody. Here he is.
I went to get a little bit of a surprise for everyone, which I'm going to show you all soon. Are you still there, Liz?
Oh yeah, I'm still here.
All right. Every time you ask me a question that I don't want to hear, I'm going to go. If you ask me a question that I love, I'm going to go. All right. So to your question, I say, I love all my books, but this is one of my favorite ones because it's the most recent. It's called Becoming Muhammad Ali. And it's a novel about the greatest boxer and one of the greatest human beings ever.
Okay. How about let's try this one, because lots of people have upvoted this, and it's from Hungerford Primary School. What would you say to a child that says they do not like reading?
Excellent question. I would read to them. I wouldn't say anything. I would read to them. And I would say something to the teacher or the parent. I would say books are amusement parks. And sometimes kids got to be able to choose the ride. Find a book that the kid's going to want to be able to read. But you got to know the kid. So it's not enough to just give a book to a kid that you think they ought to read. Find out what interests the kid. If they like basketball, give them the crossover. If they like football, give them Booked. If they, give them something that's going to connect with them. So I wouldn't say anything. I would read to them. I would do a read aloud, something fun and exciting, or I'd give them a book that I know they would love.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Now, I really like this question that's come up in the chat from Lee Valley Academy. What does your work day look like? And do you have any quirky writing habits, like wearing lucky socks, or the first chapter has to be handwritten in green ink?
That's so cool. I write every day from about 6 a.m. to about 11 or 12, and then I have lunch and go for a walk. And then in the evening, sometimes I'll rewrite. I'll edit what I wrote in the morning. I have a certain chair I sit in when I write. No, I don't have any quirky writing habits.
Yeah. Do you always write in the same place if you're in London, or do you find that you write on the hoof as well, like if you're traveling a lot or doing visits? Or
well, since March of last year, I've written in the same place because you can't go anywhere.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten.
Speaking of which, I hope everyone's staying safe and healthy. But when the world was open, I wrote in the park. I wrote in St. John's Wood Park. I wrote at a couple tea houses. I wrote all over London.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I like this question as well, which is a bit similar to one I had on my list, which is from Bowness Primary. And it said, if you ever had any difficulties writing your books, how did you solve them? And then that sort of links in with what Bandon Hill Woodfield says, what do you do when you're feeling unmotivated to write? Because we all have days.
Yeah. Either I start reading something, I put the writing away and read. I go for a walk. I find that walking really helps. Or I watch Disney Plus or Netflix. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's the truth. But eventually I find my way back to the writing.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Right, let's see if there's any other. Oh, I know, there was that one that I really liked. Do you find, let's see if I can find who it's from. Sorry. I've asked so many questions now. It's great. Brilliant questions from everybody. It's so good. Oh yeah, here we go. From Clifford Road again. Does writing energize or exhaust you?
Both. I am so energized when I'm telling a story, and I'm exhausted from telling the story. It's just so much work, so much fun, you know? It's like playing 4 quarters of a basketball game nonstop. You love playing it, especially when you make those shots or you steal the ball or you get a rebound, but at the end of the game, you're tired.
Yeah. Now, did you have a favorite book that you loved to read when you were a child?
Fox in Socks by Dr. Seuss. Oh,
Silly
yeah. Oh, yeah. Pay attention, Liz. Pay attention.
Sorry, I need that bad buzzer. Give me the bad buzzer. Sorry, everyone. No, I was thinking because you said before that your dad told you that you had to read the encyclopedia. And somebody asked, I can't find who it was, or I've written it down, but somebody asked, why did your dad get you to read the encyclopedia?
My dad got me to read the encyclopedia and the dictionary. I guess he wanted me to be better with words. He wanted me to, like my mother, they taught me to use my words. My mother did it in a really fun, loving way. My dad did it in a kind of a punitive, punishing way. But I guess it worked because I'm a writer. I've written 35 books. So I guess it worked, right?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, I think we're coming to an end, but I'm going to finish on this question because I think it's quite interesting. And it's from Boldmere Primary. And they would like to know, what's the hardest type of poem to create?
Oh, so I wrote one of these poems in The Crossover, and I wrote one in Becoming Muhammad Ali. And here's the kind of poem that is always the hardest. It's a poem that you can read multiple ways, okay? So you can read it from top to bottom, or you can read it from bottom to top. That's 2 ways. Now in The Crossover, I wrote a poem that you can read 5 ways. It took me 7 days to write the poem. You can read it going down. You can read it going across. You can read it going backwards. You can read 2 columns separately. And each way, you get a slightly different meaning. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite poem I ever wrote. It's in The Crossover, 5 different ways, and it was the hardest poem to write. You want me to read it to you? Oh my goodness. I love it.
Please.
I love it.
Yes, please. What's it called as well?
Let me see if I can find it. Can I find it? All right, Liz, you'll have to talk. We don't want any blank air.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine.
While I'm looking for this.
It's been so great talking to you today. It really is. I hope everybody's felt really inspired to read and write some poetry of your own. That's one thing I was going to tell you actually, is that Kwame did a really nice little video for us, which we've put on our website, and it's like a creative writing workshop, and he talks to you about how to write a couplet. And it would be brilliant if you watch that video. Like I say, it's on our website, and then you could have a go at writing some couplets yourself and then sending them to us. And we'd really like to see them, and we'll put them on our website if they're really good. So yeah, let's do that. Right, over to Kwame.
It's called Dear Jordan. Dear Jordan. And see how it has one column over here and one column over here? So it's a 2-column poem. So I'm going to read it a couple different ways. All right. I'm going to read it diagonal. Without you, I am empty. The goal with no net. Seems my life was broken, shattered, like puzzle pieces on the court. I can no longer fit. Can you help me heal? Run with me, slash with me, like we used to, like 2 stars stealing sun, like 2 brothers burning up together. P.S. I'm sorry. All right, so that's one way. Here's another way, just the left column. Dear Jordan, without you, the goal seems broken, like puzzle pieces. I can no longer fit. Help me heal. Slash with me, like 2 stars, like 2 brothers together. P.S. I'm sorry. All right, and here's another column. Dear Jordan, I am empty with no net. My life was shattered on the court. Can you run with me like we used to, stealing sun, burning up? That's 3 ways. So there are 2 more ways to read that poem. I'll let you figure them out. I'm not telling you everything, Miss Caldecott. I'm not telling you. You guys got to figure it out. You all have been amazing. I love these questions. This has been wonderful. We should do this again.
Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Kwame, today. It's just been so brilliant. And thank you everyone for attending. And thanks for all your amazing questions, everybody. It was really, you came up with some really great ideas there. And so, yeah, but just before I go, I've told you about the little workshop, so please do that. And just to let you know that we are a small charity and we're always looking for donations. So if you've enjoyed today and you can donate, then please do so. Just go to our website and you'll see how you can do that. And that's it from us for today. We'll be back tomorrow with some more events, and I'd just like to say one more final massive thank you to the wonderful, legendary Kwame Alexander. Thank you so much. And
you're very welcome.
Everybody.
And everyone, I forgot to show you, this is the Newbery Medal.
Woohoo! Woo!